Welcome to the Demand Gen Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Janelle Amos, and if you're a demand gen marketer, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about, you guessed it, how to build and deploy scalable demand gen frameworks in a simplified way. You'll learn from me and my experience from being a 3-time in-house director of demand gen to now founder of Elevate Growth, a B2B SaaS demand gen consulting firm, where I've helped over 14 companies deploy a demand gen framework from scratch. You'll also hear from a list of guests and experts on the show as well. You can check out elevate-growth.com for more information about me. But for the reason why you're here today, let's dive in. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode. Today I have the pleasure to be joined with Steffen Hedebrandt. He is the co-founder and CMO of Dreamdata.io. Steffen, did I pronounce your last name right? Can you do a quick overview of your background and of Dreamdata for us, please?
I approve the pronunciation. It's not the easiest one in English.
Cool. Did you want to start with like a brief overview of how you navigated to co-founding Dreamdata and give the audience a little bit more information on what Dreamdata is?
Yeah, so I can say all the way ever since I graduated university back in 2010, I've always been working in B2B companies. I've always been working in predominantly digital companies, predominantly marketing and growth related roles. So a mixed bag of everything from like a super small startup to Upwork to a screen sharing device called Airtame, which was where I really got obsessed with this question about if I spend money on ads, what comes out on the other side. And at the end of that tenure, I happened to meet my two now co-founders that could actually help explain this question. Because at my last company, this B2B hardware company, we went through this journey of like less than 20 employees to around 100 employees and $0 in ad spend to around $100,000 in ad spend per month. And as you go through that kind of scaling process, it's kind of, you know, the cause and effect of the first 10,000 you put in month on month, but the last 10, 20, 30,000 you put in, you're like, your guess is as good as mine, whether what works and stuff like that. So, but I've always believed that like to be like successful with marketing, you need to have an impact on your, money. Like you have to have an impact on selling stuff. So I really tried my best with the tools I had available back then to try and prove. I've been playing computer games when I was a kid, and there's always these cheat codes for the games, and that's what I regard understanding the customer journey or like attribution, if you want, as kind of the cheat codes for the life of a B2B marketer. Because if we understand what it is that we did and what outcome it gave us, then we can go back and repeat it. We can go back and tweak it and optimize it a little bit and squeeze a little bit more extra out of our efforts. So that's why I got really obsessed with this question about, I need to understand what happened so I can do more of it or stop doing it. And I met my two co-founders, that's like 4.5 years ago now, where they had been going at this problem from an engineering point of view, where they were running the product at a company called Trustpilot. It's a really big review site, at least here in Europe. And their question was, or the first question they had was, what happens to there was a big freemium play, so you can create a free account for your business, and then you can collect reviews. And then they monitored, like with data, how long did it take before you become a customer? What were the different touch points in your journey from creating an account until you sell? And once you've established that, you start asking, is it better that they enter through this channel or like ad platforms, blog post, outbound? Is there more likely to churn or like upsell and whatever? And that core curiosity and core technical solution is still the foundation of what it is that we do at Dreamdata today. We basically help our B2B customers understand and make sense of their customer journeys, at least upon to the level of utilizing every digital reflection that they have available. Because we're not mind readers. We'll never get you to 100%, but we will at least take all the data silos you have available and model into an account-based timeline of every account that you deal with. And then you can start looking for patterns of what to do more and less of. So I think that's the quickest of pitches and intros to what I've been doing in my past and what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I love that intro. Thank you so much. What I think is interesting, though, from your background, and especially with customer journeys and revenue attribution, today's conversation is actually be molded more around marketing and sales alignment. So I guess the first question that I have for you today is how would you fully go about defining like what marketing and sales alignment should look like in modern B2B SaaS businesses?
So it's a topic I'm super passionate about because like we've really seen the effects at our company as well from getting this alignment right. What I mean by alignment is like ultimately like each company can only spend their dollars once. So you want to make sure that every department you have available is using the resources that they have towards a common shared goal. So that means that like marketing is trying to attract the same kind of people as the salespeople like to sell to. And the product people is building product for the accounts that the sales team likes to sell to. So everything that you do is focused towards the same outcome. And I've learned this probably the hard way when we started out Dreamdata. I think I did the first 100 demo calls on my own. So I did my own attract of the demand and then sat on the demo calls afterwards. And I've been sitting in demo calls where it's like, what the fuck am I doing here? I'm never gonna sell to you. So like, why did I even show up to this demo call? So like, but I think that's like, it's really helpful for marketers to dip your toes in sales because you really see the impact of whether you focus on producing quality demand or if you just go for quantity of emails that you can collect. So it's something that we're super obsessed with nowadays at Dreamdata, and it goes all the way through from who are we attracting, who are we selling to, who can the CS team make renew their product. So everything is about, for us at least, it's mainly to focus towards B2B software companies today. But it also helps like just streamlining most decisions.
I love that. It's definitely critical for B2B SaaS companies, and that's my background within SaaS. However, I still see so much misalignment. I see it all over LinkedIn. Marketing to sales alignment is key. It's gold, and go-to-market alignment is key. But every single client that I work with, I don't say every single, but it's very much a common challenge with clients that they have total go-to-market dysfunctions. They're siloed. They're not talking to each other. They're going after different ICPs, different accounts. Nobody knows who they're going after. So it's almost mind-boggling about everybody still preaching the necessity and the criticalness of having marketing sales alignment, but nobody seems to actually like figure out how to do it. And so that's why I'm really excited for this conversation, because you're walking that example over at Dreamdata as well. What do you think are some common challenges that businesses encounter when trying to align marketing and sales? And why do you think that it's this much of an issue that businesses still struggle with that?
Dysfunctional go-to-market, that's a good a good term. I think a lot of companies can be, you're suffering from, or you're like, you're suffering from the heritage of what worked once. So like if you're born sales-led, then the company just keeps making decision isolated around what will the sales department prefer. So I think in many cases, I think there's two things in play here. One is there's kind of the top-down approach that the leaders of the company should insist that people regard themselves as part of the same team, as not a part of like 4 different teams or whatever you have. You need to get everybody to think that like the buyer will only experience one customer journey, and the marketing touch is there in the start of the journey and the sales touches is in the end of it, but it's essentially the same journey. The other way is that I really preach that it's everybody's responsibility that we're aligned. So if marketing has no clue about how do they look the leads that the sales team prefer, then walk into the sales room and ask them, like physically or digitally. Or if the sales team feels that they're just being loaded with crap leads, go into the marketing room and tell them, this is not how the leads should look like. They should look like XYZ. So there's both the kind of the management top down that should insist that we collaborate and we align our activities across the customer journey. And then there's what I really preach is like the individual responsibility, that we make sense of why are we here and how can we help each other. And actually, just to plug it, I did a blog post on the Dream, did a blog on like I think 10 advices on this topic, how to align marketing and sales. But I think the first one is, and easiest one, is to insist that there's always a marketing team member that listens into the weekly sales pipeline meeting. I think most companies has this kind of one meeting once a week where all the account executives get together and talk about deals. Make sure somebody from marketing sits in there, because us as marketers, we listen differently to what salespeople say than the salespeople say, because we're always thinking one-to-many solutions. We don't want to go through the hassle of replying the same thing to every email. So like just the other day, I heard a salesperson saying, hey, I had to answer this customer that whether we had this Samuel login, like which is some kind of special security login that enterprises like, and I knew we had that, but the salesperson literally had to like reply that in an email. And then I went to our website and I couldn't actually find this information anywhere. So like within a day or two, that information was available on the website. And the same thing goes with like, what are the salespeople repeatedly being asked? Well, we in marketing, we can get those annoying things out of your way because we can do really good one-to-many replies here.
Yeah. Sometimes though, I almost feel like it's easier said than done, if you will, about saying the leadership needs to be the one that makes sure that it's an entire go-to-market initiative. Sometimes you need to make sure that marketing is on those pipeline calls, sales stepping in the same room as marketing. There's a lot of politics that come into play if an organization is traditionally sales-led and we're wanting to lead that level of monetization. What do you think are some like best ways that we can empower other marketers, because this podcast is directed more towards marketers than sales individuals? What are some like recommendations that you have for marketers to be able to champion that?
Yeah, I would start with marketers becoming aware that what the scorecard for our activities, that is really that that our company sells more. It's not the success of a campaign to generate emails. The success of marketing is when your company sells stuff. What that means is that there should always be like a revenue feedback loop, or at least like feedback, like a thinking loop. We did XYZ, we spent XYZ money. How much revenue came out of our investment here? So you start thinking about like, how much did we sell after we did this activity? So if you start judging yourself against that scorecard, instead of, just mindlessly generating more and more emails that nobody ever cares about speaking to, then I think when you start acting in this way and start building, the evidence that you're coming with this, then you'll get in many cases, a different respect from the sales team. Like, you guys closed 100 deals last year. We provided you with 65 of those deals. And now, how do you think about marketing now?
Yep. It's a really great call out, finding a way to showcase your value by not only getting like the data tied and accumulated into the right way, because that's a whole nother conversation in itself, is making sure that the data tells the story. Go ahead.
I think it's like start out building out the narrative of what, a simple narrative of we do XYZ things because we think that, that produces revenue. And then once you're in your team and the marketing team has established the story, then go try out this story together with the leader of the sales team, try it out with the CFO, get people to buy in on these are the right activities we're doing in order to produce demand that we will sell to. And once you've those two steps done, then there's the path of then bringing the data, either like quantitatively or qualitatively, that the narrative you have is actually also true. So if you have nothing else, then take screenshots of your proof, like people mentioning on you on social media or in Slack channels, or you met people at a conference. Make sure you write those anecdotes down so the company starts understanding these things actually work.
Do you think that marketing and sales should have, and maybe even customer success, right, as we're talking about this entire like go-to-market, banishing some of those silos, do you think that in addition to the weekly pipeline calls where a marketer should be present, or how if it's a monthly pipeline calls, whatever the setup that an organization has, do you think that that's enough to really drive alignment between all of the teams? Or do you suggest that there should be an additional like monthly all go-to-market team alignment where it's more than just like the leaders, it's actual individuals that are also on the team? Like if we're wanting to banish some of the silos and some of the politics, at what point is it just leaders communicating with then it's an actual department, like different departments are interacting and working together as a team?
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, Janelle, that it's not enough that the leaders are preaching this. You need you need the people to follow as well. I think we're privileged in the sense that we're just around, what are we now, like 40 people, and we can still fit everybody into the same office. So it's quite easy to feel that we're part of the same organization. Whereas, much larger companies with us with several offices all over the place, it's much harder. But I think it's about creating some kind of some shared goals. And what I mean when I say goals, it could be like, first of all, the number one goal is how much revenue we produce. Secondly, how much pipeline we produce. Out of the pipeline we need to produce, the marketing team needs to be responsible for a certain chunk, and maybe if you have an outbound team, they're responsible for the other chunk, so that like people know that they're leading into the same kind of end goal. And then you'll probably have to like report on that funnel all the time, so the teams will keep seeing how much did the sales team win, but also how much entered the pipe through these marketing sourced channels. But it's also about like listening to what do you then do? It's hard to almost like rewire your brain to think about the silos again. Like how can you think in this way when you know that like the only way your company wins is if everybody works together towards a common goal.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway from this is that it starts from the top, like for sure. And there's definitely ways that somebody, if you're an individual contributor on the marketing team, can start advocating for those conversations. But at the end of the day, I don't know how possible it is for somebody who doesn't have the power and the politics behind them to really lead that entire change. I think the best you can do is lead some of those collaborative conversations. And then if others have that same pain point or that same mindset and the willingness to change, then you can kind of do like a buddy system and move your way up and really start talking about the challenges, the differences, and better ways to do it. I think that could also be like a bottoms up approach as well. Because people are, and I'm guilty of this as well, always say, no, it's a leadership problem. Oh, it starts from the leadership. But like, does that mean that if your leaders aren't bought in, or if your leaders maybe they don't have the experience in that area, that you just leave companies? Like, what if the company is great? What if you believe in the product? Like, So finding ways that you yourself can manage up and can drive some of these larger initiatives could also be very beneficial in my experience.
Yeah, one exercise that we really benefited from was to like do a corporate, or what you can say, like a company-wide definition of what is an ideal customer profile for us.
Yeah.
Like deciding upon who are we actively trying to sell to and who are we actively trying not to sell to, and do that as kind of a company exercise. So everybody agrees and buys into that these are really the people that we need to attract. Which when I said in the beginning that was what made us really like march in the same direction, because if you have this ideal customer profile defined, then marketing can also be held accountable for, does the demand that comes in look like the agreed customer profile that we're trying to attract? If it doesn't, well, then marketing is at least not living up to what we've agreed that we should be living up to. Then secondly, it could be that the sales team doesn't care about all the inbound leads that marketing drives. Well, then it's the sales team that is differing from the strategy that we have agreed. So there's like multiple steps in that journey where we can all try to kind of make sure you're not stronger than your weakest link. So if you have from the way you attract people to the way you sell to them, to the way you renew people and make them happy, and you build more product for them.
I love it. I think that's super valuable. The last question that I have for our conversation today are, what are some ways that you can start showing that you want to be a part of alignment between marketing and sales going forward, and that you can really like win their trust? Because saying you're going to do one thing, showing up for the meetings, you know, you're at one point talking the talk. So what are some recommendations that over time we could really establish that trust to really like walk the walk and bridge the gaps and truly have a unified marketing and sales and go-to-market function?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of proactive steps you can take. Like one is to, do an analysis of the last 100 demo calls that got booked on your website. And try to bucket them into different demographics, firmographics, and walk into the sales team's room, like book a call with the sales manager and present, these are the last 100 demo calls. Do you like the looks of it? Is it the right industry? Is it the right company size, or what is it? Or the opposite, ask about what are this quarter, what are the 10 best deals that we got in? Explain to me why these are good leads. It might be because of technology, company size, whatever it is, and say, great, now I know exactly who you like to sell to. I'll go back to my room and then try to attract more of these. So I think it's all the time asking you like that proactive question. How can I help the sales team with what I do? Because we're not in the world to just operate independently, because we can do the best marketing in the world, but if the sales team doesn't care about it, if they don't act upon the leads that we bring in, then the return on ad spend, the ROI of whatever we do is going to be close to zero.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think it's also making sure that you deliver, right? Like you can pull people into a room and talk about how the quality of the demos are looking and get that feedback and the takeaway for how it could be better. But I think then it's actually finding a way for it to get better and showing those results and coming in and saying, hey, I heard you about this. This is what I did about it. How are these? And, still to your point, that revenue feedback, but it's not only just, it's proactiveness in saying, hey, let's have a conversation and work through it together. But then it's also making sure that you're holding yourself accountable to come back with that feedback loop and say, here's what I did about it. I think that helps establish trust over time as well.
A super good point, Janelle. It could also be like, go in and ask, what are the 10 questions that customers always ask you on a sales conversation? Go back and write 10 great blog posts to answer these questions, and then go show that to the sales team and say, now you don't have to remember all of these answers. You can just send them this link. So that's very true. And I think that goes for most relationships, that you need to do what you say and say what you do.
You got to do the work. In relationships, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're picking up the kid, you're picking up the kids.
Yeah, you gotta deliver. That's going to be the tactical takeaway for this episode. You got to deliver whatever you do, make it agreed upon, and make sure that you deliver. Awesome. I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Those are all the questions that I have. Is there any last minute thoughts that you want to leave for the audience, or what are some best places that people can get in touch if they have additional questions for you?
Oh, I think on that very narrow focus of marketing taking responsibility for the alignment, we've really been well through it. But in general, I'm super active probably too active on LinkedIn. So if people want to get in contact with me, they can just connect there. And if they're interested in what we do at Dreamdata, they can just go to Dreamdata.io and check it out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you so much, Janelle.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Demand Gen Made Simple podcast. If you found this episode valuable, please do not forget to subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.